Okay, it's a new week, but it's the same old sales life, guys. Coming back. Sean, good to see you, brother. You look
Nice
great.
to
The
see
shirt's
you,
not
man.
buttoned. Shirt's not buttoned. Doesn't need to be in California.
No, a little chilly out here, but
I'm telling you,
quite
man, ever
beautiful.
since I commented on your biceps, you've showed up with your arms covered. I think because that.
yeah. I was gonna button up to here.
I'm not kidding you. The other day, you were like, I think you were flexing for the camera.
I was. I promise, I wasn't.
That's you, bro. That's on you. That's pride. And that's
That is
not,
pride.
that's something
Arrogance,
you have to deal
pride.
with.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Look,
Hey, buddy.
if you're on,
Long time no
you're
talk.
paying for, you're paying for supplements. You should show them off. Anyway, I appreciate you, man. Good to see you. A lot of birds around you in your backyard. It's almost like you're living in
paradise.
It's like a rainforest. It's like you're living in Fern Gully.
Spring has sprung here. So we have actually, we got wild parrots now, and they're loud, man. So that's probably what you're hearing. SoCal has wild parrots. It's weird.
It never ceases to amaze me the things you say, especially about animals. I mean, last
cats.
episode, we're talking about rat-seeking laser cats. This episode, you've got wild parrots, game birds, like birds of prey involved in these episodes. But anyway, so we're back. Sean, we talked a ton about surviving, hopefully thriving through your first 5 years of commercial real estate brokerage last time.
Yeah.
We're going to jump back into that topic, but I've got a little surprise for you, which is some rapid fire questions for our audience. Okay. So if you could go back, here's number one. If you could go back and tell Sean Ward in his first 5 years one thing, what would that be?
Yeah, I think I think one thing I let me answer this question a long way. One thing I got right is I had my expectations set right of how long the timeline would take. I just remember starting out feeling like, okay, looking at the top folks in my industry, and I just said to myself, it's going to take me 20 years to get there. And so that was always, and that's the right expectation to have. That's the right timeline, in my opinion, for you to get to the point where you are the market authority, the top person in your market, 20 years. What I would have changed is, and I think this maybe is common for folks who are starting out and working at a place where you're asked to make a lot of calls. I was maybe a little bitter in the beginning of I worked at a small shop before I came over to the shop I'm at now. And it was like a cold call factory, boiler room type of place. And I was maybe a little bitter about that experience. Like, oh, that sucked. They didn't teach me anything. That was my main gripe. They didn't teach me anything. All they taught me was to pick up the phone. I didn't know anything about deals. I didn't go to any meetings. I didn't get pulled into anything. And so here's what I would change. I now know I was taught the best possible thing I could have been taught, which was how to pick up the phone and set a meeting. And now I see that that's a skill set that not everybody has. And so, I didn't know a lot about, operating expense breakdowns and, the fundamentals of a triple net lease, but who cares? Like, that's technical stuff. I mean, now we see ChatGPT could tell you all of that stuff, but ChatGPT can't tell you how to pick up the phone and get in front of somebody. And that's that's what you get with reps. So if you're in that position now and you're tempted to be bitter that, they're just using me to pick. No, you are enhancing yourself in such a significant way by getting all those reps on the phone. That's the point of these reps. Like, that's what's in it for you. You think you're doing that for your senior partner? You're doing that for yourself to get better. So that's what I would change. Maybe the mindset around.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, I meant this to be rapid fire, but I kept letting you go because anytime you can replace bitterness with something positive, you're in the money. I love that. So that was one thing you tell yourself. So don't get bitter. What is a tool? What is what if you could pick a tool, whether it's tech or relationship or whatever kind of, what would you say is an essential tool to getting through your first 5 years? And maybe a tool that you're using now that if you could give it to yourself in the early part of your career would have enhanced what you were doing.
Honestly, I think the best tool you can have is a very simple spreadsheet to track everything you're doing. Two things, and I'm kind of surprised. I see some. I've talked to some folks newer in the business that they don't do these two things, but it seems so simple to me. But have a spreadsheet to track all your calls. You have to do this, and this is, you know what, this should be our giveaway and our LOI. I'll just send these templates out to the newsletter folks. But have a simple spreadsheet that tracks the number of calls you're making, the number of decision makers you connect with, and then the number of meetings you set. And in the spreadsheet I have, it connects all those and it has ratios for each one. So I know my call to contact ratio, I know my call to closing ratio. And the reason that's important is if you get enough data in there, because you're tracking everything, and you're realizing that, hey, it's taking me way too many calls to just get a decision maker on the phone, well, you know that you need to fix that part of your process, right? There is that. There's different parts to getting a meeting, and the first part is to get a decision maker on the phone. So take that simple spreadsheet, and I want to circle back to that point in a second, but take that simple spreadsheet and track it.
Don't ignore this. Like this is, and if you're like me, you're not a track numbers type of dude. You're more of a feel person. You're more of a like, what's in front of me, I'm going to do it. It exhausts me to like a lot of times if I'm doing a deal and I have to also track it, it's like I'm not only doing stuff, but I need to write all that stuff down. It's easy to not do those types of things. You got to do it. I've come full circle on this, dude. You have to track your ratios.
You have to. And the other thing is I had a spreadsheet, and this is a very, very basic, but it just listed every deal that I was pursuing, and it just broke them into 3 sections: stuff that we were hired on, stuff that we were pitching, and then just opportunities that I just had a gut feel like that's something and there was probably always 50 to 200 on that list. And, you know, the hired was maybe 3 or 4 entries and everything else. But just having that, you know how important that is when your senior partner or your manager or just anybody says, hey, what are you working on? And let's say you're not hired on anything. What are you working on? You pull that up. I mean, the name of the game for us is like we use a number system to track all of our deals 0 through 7. Right. 0 is like, hey, okay, this is just a vague opportunity. And then, you know, it moves from that to, okay, this is an active pursuit. Okay, we're pitching it. Okay, we just got hired. We're late stage negotiation. We just closed it. We're invoicing. Like there's each stage. The whole job of having a pipeline is to move things from 0 to 7 or whatever your system is. So figure that out early on and start putting the opportunities that you're chasing, the prospects that are on a list. And your job is to move them up the list, okay? If it's just an opportunity, you got to get a first meeting. If it's a first meeting, I'll use your vernacular, you got to get a BOV. If it's a BOV, you know, you got to get a pitch, you know, set up to get a pitch. Like, but track all that stuff. You have to track it. It's not good enough to just, you know, be in the ether, just out there somewhere. Track it.
Yeah, that's one of the lessons that I like. For example, the guy coming on with us this summer, I just told him the other day, I'm like, look, as an intern, the number one thing you can pick up is the skill of list building. And if I could go back to my first 5 years, I would focus on this earlier. Like, not just get the opportunity, work it, whatever, go from thing to thing to thing within the opportunity. Make your whole list first, then work that list. List building is a seriously underrated skill in this industry. And there are a lot of AI things that will help you. significantly with that now, much more so than even when I started or when you started back in the day with did you have a BlackBerry, by the way? Did you ever have a BlackBerry?
I did. Yeah. And I had whatever was before that too.
Yeah,
No,
I
you
wish
should
I could
know,
see
you should
on a
look up the
BlackBerry.
guys I worked for. They had the Palm Trio. You don't even know what that is, but you go look
I
that
do
thing
know what
up.
it is.
That
I
was
do know what it is.
badass, man.
I saw one back in the day. Yeah, that a dude had, and I was super impressed. Like with the little stylus, like you'd be like pull out the
Yeah,
little tiny
dude.
pencil, and
Yes. It
that's cool.
was, yeah. 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 When I started, I was rubbing dots on maps for these guys, tour books, printed map, and then the dot, I'd take this little dot and it would come off this sheet, and then I'd put it on, you'd kind of rub it on with the tip of a pencil. And yeah, I mean, this is old school. I don't feel old, but then I say things like that. Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. Look, maps are super important.
And dots are too. So there you go.
And dots are too. Okay, that was my rapid fire thing. Is that fair enough? Like I wanted to start with this understanding Sean.
Questions. Yeah.
What's one thing that you tell yourself? What's one tool? And I was going to ask you one change you would have made, but I just like the bitterness. Like I like the idea of
don't be bitter. Even if you are, you will reflect back one day and say, you know what, that was probably the best thing I could have done. And I think there's maybe a bias for folks who are starting out where they feel like, oh, it's unfair. My senior person, they don't ever have time for me, or they just stick me on a desk and have them making phone calls, and maybe they don't include me in on enough. It's not fair. I totally understand that feeling, but just realize that you're not seeing it from a full perspective. And I'm saying this as somebody who was brand new and who did have that same feeling. And now I'm looking back and saying, man, that was short-sighted. I didn't have.
Can I tell you two mistakes?
I was just going to ask you the same two questions. So please, tell me your.
I think there's a bent towards aggression in our business from the standpoint of especially when you are, it's like the most gentle, skilled people and people that excel relationally are typically the people in our business that have made it. And they have those relationships. They're not trying to posture up with every interaction they are a part of and beat the hell out of other people or whatever. And so you think like toughness equals strength early on, and it couldn't be further from the truth. In one of the first lease deals I was working on, I was talking with an attorney that was big leaguing me. And, to be honest with you, I just made this comment. I was like, thanks for the lesson on leasing, man. And, then as soon as I said it, I was kind of like, why did I say that? Like, I need a lesson on leasing, number one. I could use a couple. Number two, it's like now it's brought in this personal dynamic. And it literally ever since then, I have been able to, and there weren't major repercussions from that or whatever. I apologize. I called him back afterwards, but I just don't struggle to. There are personal things that happen in our business, but I don't struggle to remove those. Like it just feels a little bit more like you can live above that. And if you're new in this, if you're in your first 5 years, but you're also in your first 5 years of any career, you have to really watch how much of the winning defines you.
Yeah. You'll see that. Yes. The egos in this business can be huge. And I always take a step back for me. And I'm like, why do especially brokers, why do brokers have egos? Like for me, like I sell concrete boxes on behalf of wealthy people. Like I'm not special. Right. But,
it's a service business.
Yeah. I'm here to serve. Yes. Yeah. It's, I think because you could make some money. So I think people who make money feel like anyway, yes, there's no reason to have an ego and be arrogant about it. And you'll see, you're going to have to navigate that. In fact, sneak peek, but Justin and I, we want to go topical. So we got a lot of topics coming up to try and add value to people who are listening to this. And I'm excited to talk about deal making intangibles and subtleties. And that's just something that's been bouncing around my head of how your ego and your personal stuff absolutely kills deals and wrecks economics for your clients. And a lot of times they don't even know because it's just in the back and forth between the brokers. And I've got a good story related to that we'll save for another time. But yeah, absolutely. What was the other mistake or thing you'd change?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I remember early on reading what you were putting on LinkedIn. And I mean, I'm talking going back 5 years ago and thinking to myself, I'm not ready to share my story yet because I don't know enough, or, you know, I'm just not qualified. And this is sort of the Gary V principle that you and I have talked about before about documenting your journey. And I wish I would have started that earlier, bro. I really do.
You're so
but
right.
I was an observer and lurker in it. And again, there's a certain respect for that. I mean, there's a certain appreciation for the craft that makes that okay, right? I'm not saying I wish I could go back and overshare, but I do wish I would have started the presence that we're engaged in a little bit earlier.
Yes.
And I would tell people, I would recommend that to people. Don't be afraid to document your journey and let people in on a window. You don't have to say I'm inexperienced, I don't know what I'm doing, because then it's going to be difficult to win clients. But as you learn those little things, share it from that perspective.
Isn't it amazing? Like when you're starting out, you can't see that, but now you can see that and you're like, oh, I wish I did it. I can see so clearly, and I'm just going to keep talking about Tucker because I've already talked about Tucker, the kid Black. But I said to him, when he first started, I'm like, just start a LinkedIn thing and start doing day in the life. And simple things like, it's so simple. Take a photo of the building you're about to walk into with a brochure in your hand. Say, this is number 75 for the day. Like, it's just simple. And again, it's kind of like cold calling. You do it not so much for what happens when you speak to the prospect, but you do it for how it refines you. And yeah, you don't know how to make LinkedIn posts or social media posts because you don't know how to write engaging in effective ways. But it's part of the refining process, which is why the earlier you start, the better. I posted about Tucker. You referenced it, closing his first deal. Well, that post is like 75,000 views. And in it, I said, Tucker, fix your LinkedIn profile. He didn't even have a photo. He didn't have anything. I mean, he probably missed the chance to connect with 1,000 people out the gates. That if they clicked on his profile and saw like, oh, he's posting some cool stuff, I'll give it a follow. I guarantee he would have 1,000 followers right out the gates. So yeah, I think it's important. It's a good point.
That was it. I didn't make any other mistakes. It was just those two.
That's it. Wow. I love it.
Speaking of hubris and speaking of pride, no, I mean, people will ask about, I would say you have to touch on some type of specialization. I will tell you how I've been speaking about it lately. I just spoke on a panel for all of SVN, which is our company. Super fun. Lots of Sales Life listeners and mentions as I was at our conference, which is kind of special too, because people know me from LinkedIn, but then people are like, I enjoy the conversation. I like being a part of it with you guys, which is really cool. Yeah. You're basically a celebrity in those circles. But
no.
So one thing I spoke about is I think there's a tendency of people that are early in those first 5 years that if you don't have a specialty, like Sean Ward is SoCal Industrial, right? Like when I think about SoCal Industrial, I think of you, and your career is enmeshed in that. That's what you do. I'm in a bit more of a tertiary market. I've done all product types. I now do investment sales with an emphasis on multifamily, but if it's got cash flow, I'm interested in selling it. But what I hear from people that are early on is they feel beat up because they don't have a specialty. And, if they're experimenting with things or they're figuring out which team to be on, figuring out what they like, I'm telling a lot of people now, don't beat yourself up if you're not specializing from day one, but put yourself on a journey to specialization. Mm-hmm. Like experiment with specialization, which can be something as simple as Sean Ward early on walking down one street of warehouses, meeting the tenants inside of those warehouses, dropping off a business card. I mean, that's a specialty. That's a specialization in a street. And you will see the benefit of specializing even in a geography or something. You'll see that the momentum build because you know what's happening with the real estate around that area. So,
yeah. And, don't think that you have to specialize just in a product type. There's people in this business who specialize in a client type. There's a all I do is represent law firms for their downtown office space, or all I do is represent biotech companies on their R&D space. Like you could specialize in client types. You could specialize in which part of the deal you're great at.
Right.
Like I'm just excellent at taking the craziest deal, the most environmentally challenged deals, and getting them over the finish line. Okay, awesome. And it doesn't matter if it's a retail office. It doesn't matter. So there's different ways to specialize. And I'm going to take the other side of that approach and say you're better off being just a generalist for your first 5 years. Get as broad of an experience as you can. You know what? Don't feel that pressure to specialize because it's not going to help you over the long haul. A long haul, you're going to want to specialize. But your first 5 years, no. Be a generalist. You want to know. Like, I never did investment sales. Probably would have been good. You should you do CCIM? I say no. Well, it's probably a blind spot for me, right? I probably should have done it. And investment sales folks probably would benefit by doing some leasing, right? It would help. So be a generalist at first.
Yes. If I will tell you this right now, if you're wanting to do sales, ask your leasing people in your office or someone if you can be a part of a couple lease deals. Literally to make nothing.
Yeah.
Understand if you're doing sales, the power of the tenant, and look at leasing brokers, how much work it takes to find the right fit and to negotiate that deal is the only reason the building is worth anything. Typically, obviously there's, a building's worth something regardless if it's empty, but that the value that a tenant provides in the power of, just the work it takes to do the leasing. I have such a respect for that. And I've been on both sides, but like that is a huge important tentacle, how the tentacles of our industry fit together. And the other thing is just how the product types feed each other, right? So if you do specialize a little bit, you see if 400 new industrial jobs come into your community, that's going to affect housing and the multifamily space. And, you kind of understand that ecosystem because ultimately you want to be able to go on the news, your local news, and for example, and talk about if you got interviewed on, hey, there's a new 400 person company that's coming to Lexington, Kentucky. What's that going to mean for the commercial real estate industry around you? It's like, I need to be able to speak exactly to what that means.
Totally. Yeah. You need to have the perspective to see it. You're right. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel like do you feel a high level of competency in what you're doing now? Now that you're 7 years in? And if so, did that come recently? Like, do you feel like
I do
crossed a hurdle or like?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't know when it came. I would say year 3, if I had to really narrow it down. But underwriting is a bit painstaking for me because I'm a perfectionist. So when I'm underwriting a property, sometimes it'll paralyze me because I'm like, I will not leave money on the table for this. I will not just put a value on it. I need to do a lot of research. I need to really understand my spreadsheet. And I think that a passion and skill for underwriting produces a competency for this business. The culture I was raised in, very, very particular to what is this worth? Like, let's really focus on value. And I love that. And I'm passionate about that. And then, yes, as far as, man, I started in ministry. So like communications in service, like, bro, I came into this business with a completely different perspective on relationships. And
year 3, how old were you when you hit your year 3?
35.
Okay. See, I was asking this question because I remember somewhat vividly being right at the 7-year mark and feeling like, okay, I think I finally get this. But my 7-year mark, I was 30, right? So I think that the comment I want to leave people with is, like, if you're young and starting out in this business, recognize you're young and starting out in any business, and there's just life skill set stuff that it just takes a while to get.
Right.
like the interpersonal dynamics and just a confidence of who you are and that you deserve to be there. Like, that it just takes time. Right.
Yeah.
And part of surviving your first 5 years is you are playing the role of an imposter, because in your own mind, you don't have the confidence to really have a seat at the table. So you're showing up every day and kind of faking it. And that's okay. Everybody does it. And that's fine. And everybody looks at that and accepts it and gets it. And most people, I think good people are rooting for you. So
Right.
a lot of the confidence, it's just in your own head. Expectations are that you don't know a ton and you're learning. I think what people see, if you're hired and you're in the business, it's because somebody saw potential in you for whatever reason. So just lean on that. Show up and do your best job. Yeah, the competence will come. One day you will open your eyes and be like, okay, I finally get this. I finally get what we're doing.
Yeah, I feel like I can. And you can't. This is something I've really struggled with, and something I'm fascinated by is you have to be completely and totally present in your communication with every deal that you're a part of, and you're following, you're tracking with the people. You're over communicating, you're feeling their emotions so you can teach them how to respond and all of that. And at the same time, you can't let your entire emotional state be dictated by deals. So you got to be all in, but you also have to be like, I see it all. And because guess what, man? Deals fall apart.
Yeah, you have to be all in. And it's really just expectations, though. You have to expect things are going to fall apart. You have to expect that if you set 10 meetings, 5 of them are going to go nowhere. Yeah, out of those 5, you're going to get 2 BOVs. Out of those, you're going to get to 1 pitch, and then it's a coin flip of if you get hired. Then once you get hired, it's only 50-50 if you close a deal. I mean, set that as your expectation. Everything I get hired on, 50-50 chance of it turns into revenue for me. Right. So that, you won't be disappointed there. I know you're on a tight timeline. You have like 4 minutes before you have to leave. So we gotta land this plane. I want to say 2 things. We started the conversation talking about the value exchange. And I think we need to round it out on there. So what do you get when you're new into this industry? First of all, you get likely paid or on some sort of draw. You get taught how to develop a skill to where you can make a lot of money and build a career in an amazing industry. You get access to relationships, opportunities, listings. You get a huge jump forward in your career. Okay, that's what you get. What do you give? This is what you need to show up and give. Yes, pick up the phone, develop new opportunities, we talked about have your eyes be wide open. Your mind is a blank canvas. You don't have assumptions about buildings and deals. And bring your energy. Like, you have fresh energy. Bring energy. Bring positivity. There's just something about having a youthful, excited energy that is a value add.
Mm-hmm.
That's a value add. And then there was a guy who had a saying, a young guy that I started with, who's now a client, but the manager always referred to him as the easy button. Steve's the easy button. And like this mentality of be the easy button. Everybody who interacts with him, he just makes it easy. And you become a referral magnet if you're the easy button. So
wow.
I don't even know. I can't even tell you exactly how to do that, but have this mindset of like, I want people to feel it's easy to interact with me. Easy to interact with me. And I maybe had one more point, but I'm losing it.
Be the easy button I like that a lot.
Yeah. Be the easy button.
Yeah, that's really good.
Oh, yeah. This is the last point. Loyalty. Loyalty. Whoever brings you on, whatever company or senior person brings you on, it's going to take them. They're investing in you, and it's 3 years before there's any ROI. Mm-hmm. And if you just are there for 3 years and then you leave, that is just, it's devastating for the folks who invest their time and money into you. So go 100%. Into it and expect to have some loyalty. And then I know we're super short on time. You got to go. But the final word of caution. Are we really this pressed on time? Because you told me you had to cut off. Do you have to get up? No,
I'm good. I'm good. Keep rolling.
Okay. Final word of caution. I've seen more in 22 years of doing this. There's one reason in particular where I see people flame out and not make it. One specific reason. And it's they get too greedy with people with splits on any single deal. Too early.
Too greedy, too early.
100%. They overvalue what they're bringing to the table, and maybe they find the opportunity and they bring that opportunity to the table, and they overvalue that. And they think of it from their perspective, but not from the perspective of their senior partner. So they think, hey man, it took me 6 months to find this opportunity, 6 months of my time. That's worth a lot. But the senior person that you're going to bring in on a deal, they're swimming in opportunity. And you know what? They're going to have to spend so much time to get your deal hired, to get it closed, transacted, that there's some opportunity risk there because they're likely saying no to other opportunities that are probably more lucrative to them. And so when you get too greedy with splits, all of a sudden, listen, you're not the easy button at that point. And there's just so many other things to focus on. And I've seen it. Most of the people I started with are not around. And I watched in real time as their relationships disintegrated with their senior partner. And then they went solo. And then they tried to make it solo. And then they just moved on.
Wow.
So don't do that.
Don't do it. Yep. Avoid bitterness, avoid greed early on. And look, I think it's fair to ask Sean. I think those are two great things to end on. If you're looking for one practical takeaway and you're in your first or second year, regardless of what's happened so far, I think it's safe to you can write down on a piece of paper or whatever you journal on and say, look, in my office, right? Because client work that's the outward facing, obviously you're doing some of that. But if you're on a team of 2 up to 100, what do I want to be known for in my office? Like, what do I want to be known for on this team? If it's calling, because that gives you a ton of life, if it's service, if it's research, if it's data, if it's geared towards adding value and you can focus on that, if it's cooperation, if it's thankfulness, what do you want to be known? If you're known for that in your office, you're going to be known for that with clients. You're going to be known for that in your community. It's going to become part of your persona.
Your brand.
It's going to be part of your brand, and it's going to be a catalyst to going the distance.
Yeah.
And there's going to be years where you just make it. Not every year is going to be spectacular, but
yes.
in every, I feel January 1st this year, again, very tough. This year just hit me like a ton of bricks. Oh my Lord, I'm starting over again. Like I just got my splits up. I just got, and I'm at 0. I'm actually in the hole because,
yeah.
So I always feel like you're starting over, but you don't have to start over on that brand. Like that persona, that what you've built, that's something you can build on every year. So, hey,
I love it.
Do you think we covered? I think we did a pretty good job of covering first 5 years. I mean, it was conversational. So we're a little bit
conversational. Yeah.
We're a little bit all over the place.
I think what we'll do is put together a really good letter of intent, maybe bullet pointing some of this, because there's a lot of practical chunks in there that we just kind of circled around in conversation. But I do think if you're in that first 5 years, give or take, and you really take some of this to heart, I think it could really be a game changer for your career.
Brother, I do too.
Yeah.
I really think there's people listening to this that could get maybe a twinge of hope if they're on the edge.
Yeah.
Maybe the newness of I was going to be Ryan Serhant or Bob Knackle. Yeah. Okay, it's worn off 8 months in. I'm actually struggling to make, ends meet. But you hear this and you go, okay, there's hope. There's potential alignment. I can have a 20-year vision.
Yeah.
You can't listen to the stuff Sean's saying. If you're listening to this out there, you have to realize this is something I picked up from this conversation is like, you have to have a 20-year mindset. Right.
And when you're only 22 years old, that seems insane. Mm-hmm. I understand. But blink your eyes and you're 42 and you're like, oh, that went pretty quick actually. And I still have my whole life ahead of me. So it's not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah.
A 20-year vision puts you right. I've heard that you make most of your monies in your money in your 40s and 50s in your life. So if you're 22 starting out and have a 20 and you become a market authority at 42 and have 2 decades potentially of prime time earning potential ahead of you, that's the position you want to be in, not haggling over an extra 5% of the commission on like year 2 of your business. Like don't cut yourself off at the knees.
Oh, you want to be in a spot where you've got wild parrots in your backyard. Like you want to put yourself in a spot where you've got
working cats.
Cats back to work. Did you cats clock in? He's got working cats. Oh,
it's wonderful.
I could keep going. I'm stopping myself here from keep going. You got working cats, you got pool guys, you got wild parrots, and that's because you got up every day and grinded, and made it to that point. Cats back to work.
You could actually hear the parrots real loud right now. So good call.
Sorry, Sean. My working cats they're on break.
Well, no kibble for them. That's for damn sure.
Hey, brother. Great to chat with you, man, as always.
Likewise, bud. See ya.